Hey everyone, it's me, your dad, and today we are going to be reviewing Warhammer 40k, Chaos Gate, Daemonhunter. What a mouthful. Before we get started, I just want to say that this review is just on the base game. I didn't get any of the DLCs. There's 3 DLCs, but I didn't see a reason to get them because it seems like all of them just add like new troops or new enemies, and I didn't really see much use of that. One of them, though, I think does add new missions, but I didn't want to pay $14 for that. So with that out of the way, let's get into the review. In Daemonhunter, you play the Grey Knights, my favorite faction in all of Warhammer 40k. They're this elite force of Psyker Space Marines that specialize in slaying demons and the forces of chaos. So during your first mission of the game, your leader, so you guys have been going on like a conquest or something, and you guys come 1v1 against this huge demon, and your leader's like, I'm going to take him on. And there's this fight that happens, and by the end of it, he can no longer lead. And so that leaves you in control of the battle barge, also known as the Edict. But you're not alone, okay? So you have Hector, he's the guy who's kind of in charge of the Grey Knights. Well, your like little division thing or whatever, or group. And then you have, I feel bad, but you have a tech priest. I can never remember his name. I feel bad, but that's because I'm not, I don't really care that much about tech priests. And then shortly after, you're going to have an Inquisitor join the ship. She's going to commandeer the ship. She's hunting this Chaos Bloom. She needs your help. The Bloom is spreading. The forces of Chaos are spreading. And yeah, she just needs your help. And that's the basics of the story. I don't really want to get too much into it because the story of this game is actually surprisingly good. I was expecting to not feel anything towards any of these characters. I was like, whatever. But I ended up loving everybody in this game. It was really, really surprising, as I said. So what is the gameplay like? So this is like a mixture of XCOM and... if you guys have ever played Gears Tactics, where there's kind of that execution to gain AP. So you have action points, and you get to go and use action points to either move, shoot, do abilities, stuff like that. But something that makes this different than those games is there's actually no hit chance. No matter what, like if they're in your weapon's range and you have line of sight of them, you can hit them. And they balance this by modifying the damage that you can do. So for example, if someone is in less than half your gun range and not in cover, you'll do, let's say, 4 damage. However, if that same person is slightly farther away and behind like half cover, you'll do 2 damage instead. So I really like that mechanic because, you're not going to be like 99%, I got this, boy, and then you shoot freaking China. Like, there's no moments like that. But sadly, then there's no moments where it's like, oh man, Steve, he only has 20% chance to hit. Oh, and he gets a headshot, and it's, big moment like that. There's nothing like that. But it's different, and I appreciate that they tried something different, and I think it worked. Something I also really liked is that there's actually 8 classes in this game. Each one can do unique things, like there's a guy who can give you guys more AP, there's a guy who could teleport and hit people with a sword, there's, people who can heal, there's people who can just buff all your guys. And I thought everybody was pretty good. The only class I didn't like was the Purifier class, but that's because the Incinerator in this game is not the best, and that class is all about making the Incinerator better, and yeah, I wasn't too fond of it. So once you guys are all move, everybody goes at one time, so you go, and then all the enemies go, and then all you go. But every time it's the end of the enemy's turn, something called a warp meter goes up, and once it reaches 100, you're going to have something called a warp surge, and that's going to make random things happen. Either your guys lose some health, or it spawns more enemies, gives them more reinforcements, stuff like that. Something I should also mention is each one of your guys can do special abilities, like that teleporting I mentioned, or even like giving people, giving people more actions. All of that stuff takes this thing called warp points, I think is what they're called. They just call them WP, so that's why I called them in my mind. And that will move the warp surge up as well. So it's it creates this dynamic in this game where it's like, okay, I need to move quickly and carefully because I don't want to move into an ambush. But I do need to hurry up because I don't want, after a while, these warp surges, you're like, come on, I'm just getting beat up. But then you also have to balance, like, okay, especially early game, you're like, okay, should I use this ability? Because if I do, then they're going to warp surge next turn. And I don't want to deal with that. I want to have another turn. Or vice versa, you're like, they're going to warp surge anyways. I need to throw all my abilities at them. And it just creates this dynamic. It feels really good. I really enjoyed it. Something that this game also did differently is, so when your guy's health goes down to 0, they just go down. They're not out of the fight. So then after 3 turns, they get back up and they're like, I'm ready to fight again. And then after that, though, then they will be out for the remainder of the mission. Every character has this thing called resilience. And once that resilience hits 0, you send them back to Titan to pretty much become a dreadnought. But so nobody permanently gets... They just lose resilience, and then you eventually are like, all right, get out of here. I don't want you anymore. And so then when you are not in missions, you will be on the Edict. That's that battle barge I was talking about. And, there's the 3 people that I mentioned earlier. There's Ector. He's kind of in charge of the barracks. You could check on your troops, all that stuff. You could talk to him, blah, 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 blah. Or you could go to talk to the tech priest guy. He's in charge of the ship, basic stuff. You can increase, like, the ship's health, their weaponry, increase the warp speed, which is vital in this game because there's a star map and you're just, like, trying to get from mission to mission. But if you don't upgrade your warp drive, you're only going to be able to hit 1 mission at a time, if that makes sense. So, like, the game will, like, show, like, 3 missions up at a time. And you're like, okay, I want to do this mission. But if you don't upgrade your warp surge, you won't be able to do any of those other missions. And then their chaos or their corruption will grow. And eventually it will create a special mission if it gets too high. Oh, and then the final person is you could talk to Cartha. She's the Inquisitor. She's in charge of, like, the research. This is basic XCOM stuff, she does the research. It's like, okay, you could research things called, like, stratagems, which are like these special kind of abilities that you could do in the mission. So you can give your people more action points. You could heal somebody fully. Stuff that, you need, but that's pretty much all that she does. Also, you research, like, the stuff for the campaign, like researching the seeds and stuff like that. Oh, something I want to mention before we end here is just like XCOM, it has the, like, every 30 days or every 60 days, I don't know exactly what it's like in this game, the Grandmaster will call in, check on your performance, and he will reward you with these things called, I think they're called requisitions, and you could use those to, like, be like, okay, I want to, for my mission rewards, I want to see more armor. I want to see more weaponry. I want better armor. I want better weaponry. Stuff like that. So there's that. And also, speaking of the requisitions, is every mission you could take on, it's called a glorious deed. And you can make the mission technically harder, but you gain more requisition from the mission. And you could use that requisition to then purchase the mission reward. So you can use it, buy more troops, weaponry, all that shebang. So all of this put together, it makes an addictive gameplay. I think the game is difficult because I played through on normal, and I immediately, as soon as I was done, I was like, okay, I need to play on a harder difficulty. But I think I was worried when I started to be like, okay, if I can't miss, how will I ever lose? But the game just throws so many enemies at you and throw so many effects that you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm being beat up. But the cool thing about that is it makes you feel like each one of your guys is worth 50 of the enemies, and you're just one-man army. Like, what happens if you put a one-man army in a group of 4 and go on this mission? That's what it kind of makes you feel like, and I really love that. It's a different feeling than when you play something like XCOM or one of these other tactics games. And I appreciate that. I like how it's different. I think it did well. And I'm honestly going to be comparing tactical games to this from now on. I truly, truly love this game so much. I absolutely cannot get enough of it. So, that all being said, what would I rate the game? I want to give it I want to give it a 10 out of 10 for somebody who loves Grey Knights, because they're my favorite faction in all of Warhammer. I personally, I enjoy this game more than XCOM. I could see how somebody could say that they don't like it more than XCOM, and I think that would be fair to say XCOM 2 is better. But in my mind, I like it more. So yeah, I'm just gonna stick with it. I was gonna go back and be like, oh, maybe 8, but you know what? I'm gonna be comparing this game to all of games that all tactical turn-based games from now on. So that being said, I have to give it a 10. I love this game. It is amazing. Really, really, you should buy it. It was on sale. If you don't want to spend that full amount or whatever, but if you don't have the cash, wait for it to go on sale. Buy this game, play it. I really, really love it, and I really think people would love it too. So thank you all so much for watching this video. I love you guys. I hope you have a great day. And just remember, in or out, don't leave that dang door open.